Hello everyone and welcome to the Coldplay Iceberg Explained. In today's video, we'll be diving into the band's history and music, uncovering new information and Easter eggs as we go along. Coldplay is one of the biggest bands in the entire world, but there's never been an iceberg video made about them, so I combined two icebergs I found on Reddit, combined them into one, and added some entries of my own. So with that being said, my name is Mr. Scar. If you like this content and you want to see more, please feel free to like and subscribe as my channel is just starting out. And without further ado, let's get into it. Chris Martin. Chris Martin is the lead singer, pianist, and frontman of the band Coldplay. Born in Exeter, England, he attended a small cathedral school where he met Phil Harvey, who would later become the band's producer and manager. After graduation, Chris attended the University College of London, or UCL. It was here that he met guitarist Johnny Buckland, and the two formed a band along with Phil. At UCL, he also met bassist Guy Berryman and drummer Will Champion, and after cycling through a few different band names, eventually became Coldplay. As the band grew, Chris became a pretty big celebrity, and today, he is arguably one of the biggest rock stars in the whole world. Hit songs. It's nearly impossible to separate Coldplay from their music. Because of this, the band's identity is shaped mostly by their biggest hits, which I guarantee you've heard if you're watching this video. Some of their biggest hits include Yellow, Viva La Vida, A Sky Full of Stars, The Scientist, Fix You, and Clocks. TikTok. In the age of social media, Coldplay has had a resurgence in popularity due to social media apps such as TikTok and Instagram. Songs such as Sparks, Hymn for the Weekend, and Yellow are often used as viral audio on these platforms, leading to a much younger generation of fans being introduced to the band. Johnny Buckland. Johnny Buckland is the lead guitarist and co-founder of Coldplay. Born in London, Buckland picked up guitar at a young age after listening to Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton records. His style quickly became inspired by George Harrison, Kevin Shields of My Bloody Valentine, and U2's The Edge. He was also heavily influenced by electronic music and hip-hop, citing artists such as Björk and Massive Attack as some of his favorites. He met Coldplay and the rest of the band at UCL in 1996, and the rest is history. Live shows. Coldplay has always been very well known for their live shows. Their shows have been innovative and impressive since the very beginning, and they've also implemented many unique technologies into their performance. Their LED wristbands, also known as Zylobands, were the first of their kind and are now used by many artists all across the world. They've also made efforts to make touring more sustainable, cutting carbon emissions significantly by avoiding air travel as much as possible. This move was praised by critics and fans alike, setting them apart from the rest of other musicians. Taylor Swift. Guy Berryman. Guy Berryman is the bassist for Coldplay. Born in Kirkcaldy, Scotland, he was inspired to play the bass at a very young age after listening to Stevie Wonder and became heavily influenced by Motown and soul music. He met Chris Martin and Johnny Buckland at UCL, and joined the band Coldplay shortly afterwards. In 2008, he formed the supergroup Apparatchik, which incorporated his signature style into a more electronic sound, and has continued to release music with his band as well. Will Champion. Will Champion is the drummer and primary background vocalist for Coldplay. Born in Southampton, England, he learned to play many different instruments at a young age, but hated it because of his music lessons. Eventually, he settled on drums. A later addition to the band, Champion joined in 1998, after his roommate didn't turn up to rehearsal, volunteering to play the drums instead, and has been a member of the band ever since. Collaborations. Coldplay has collaborated with many artists and producers over the years. Some of the most notable and popular examples include the Chainsmokers on the track Something Just Like This, BTS on the track My Universe, Rihanna on Princess of China, Avicii on Sky Full of Stars, and John Hopkins throughout their entire discography. Radiohead comparison. At the beginning of the band's career, they were often compared to the rock band Radiohead. Their styles seemed heavily influenced by them, with many critics writing them off as a cheap knockoff. While Chris has admitted that they were heavily influenced by them early on, even claiming that he would, and I quote, give my left nut to write something as good as OK Computer, the band eventually developed their own distinct sound that was very different from Radiohead. However, the similarity mostly came from the fact that they were both coming from the same musical movement. Both bands claim Jeff Buckley is a major influence to them, and that's likely where the similarity comes from. Old play. Old play is a term used in online communities to describe the earlier bands of the years, specifically from around 2000 to 2008. Many fans, including myself, consider this to be the strongest period of the band's discography, and this has led to a divide between fans who preferred their newer work. New Coldplay sucks. Jumping off of that last entry, this entry is pretty self-explanatory. It just describes how many fans strongly dislike the band's more recent work. To these fans, their newer work is very overproduced and pop-heavy, moving too far away from the band's roots as a rock band. This criticism is definitely valid in my opinion, but they've definitely had a bunch of great songs in the past 15 years that just don't get the recognition they deserve. Like, go listen to Ghost Stories. Music videos. This entry is really pretty self-explanatory, but Coldplay, like every other artist, has many music videos that they've released alongside their singles. Some of the more popular ones, and also the most liked by fans, are Adventure of a Lifetime, The Scientist, and Strawberry Swing. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow is Chris Martin's wife from 2003 to 2016. After meeting Chris backstage after a show, the two began dating, and Paltrow inspired many of the band's songs as well. Chris wrote the song Fix You after the death of her father Bruce Paltrow, to help her with the grieving process. The couple also had 2 children, Apple, yeah, that's her name, and Moses Martin, but the couple divorced in 2016. The album Ghost Stories was inspired by their divorce process, leading to a darker tone than their previous albums. First 4 albums. Many fans, including myself, consider the band's first 4 albums, Parachutes, A Rush of Blood to the Head, X and Y, and Viva La Vida, to be the band's strongest work. While opinions vary about which one is the best album, most fans will list one of these 4 as their favorite. Brian Eno. Brian Eno is an ambient musician and producer who has worked with Coldplay as a producer on the albums Viva La Vida and Milo Xyloto. Originally a member of the glam rock band Roxy Music, he served as the band's primary keyboard player before leaving the band for his solo career. Afterwards, he began working with David Bowie and eventually began his career as an ambient musician. In 1984, Eno worked with the Irish rock band U2 and produced many albums with them. In Coldplay's early years, U2 and Eno were huge inspirations to them, and they played many tracks from the album Apollo on the A Rush of Blood to the Head tour. After their producer Ken Nelson left the band worked with Eno on their album Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends. Eno pushed the band to expand their scope, insisting that every track be different from one another. Because of this, the album went on to win many awards, even winning Best Rock Album at the Grammys. Eno continued to work with the band on Milo Xyloto, although he was not nearly as involved as he was on Viva La Vida. Falsetto. Falsetto refers to the vocal technique where the vocalist sings in a much higher register than usual, particularly if the singer is male. Martin uses falsetto extensively, with many people associating Martin's voice with falsetto as a concept. Martin was likely inspired by singers Jeff Buckley, Tom York, and Jonesy as he began writing his music and attributes his style to them. Phil Harvey. Phil Harvey is the primary band manager for Coldplay. He and Chris Martin were close friends as teenagers, meeting each other at the Sherborne School in 1990. Harvey attended Oxford while Martin attended UCL, but after the band became signed to Parlophone Records, Harvey took on a role of the band as manager. Chris has described him as the unofficial 5th member of the band, which is probably where you've heard him from. EPs. Along with their studio albums, Coldplay has released a handful of EPs throughout their career. These EPs include the Safety EP, which contains some of their earliest work, the Blue Room EP, which contains early versions of many songs on the album Parachutes, Prospect Smart, which includes many outtake tracks on Viva La Vida, and Kaleidoscope, which contains many songs that the band recorded in between Ghost Stories and A Head Full of Dreams. Minecraft parodies. Coldplay has had many of their songs parodied by Minecraft YouTubers. Most notably, YouTuber Captain Sparkles parodied Viva La Vida in 2013 under the title Fallen Kingdom. It's honestly pretty surprising to me how many people know this song over the actual Viva La Vida, but I don't know, it's pretty funny. Super Bowl halftime show. Coldplay performed at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2016 for Super Bowl 50, along with guest performances by Beyoncé and Bruno Mars. Overall, it was a pretty strong performance that I highly recommend watching on YouTube. However, many people disliked the performance, claiming that the band's performance was overshadowed by Beyoncé and Bruno Mars, who had both performed at the halftime show before. Also, some conservative media sources claimed that Coldplay was trying to push a gay agenda because of the heavy usage of rainbow symbolism in their performance. Obviously, the rainbow was just the theme or aesthetic they chose for A Head Full of Dreams, so there wasn't really some concealed gay brainwashing agenda, but I thought that was a funny detail. Israel and Palestine controversy. So this is a very touchy subject, so I'm going to tread lightly here. Basically, if you don't know, there's been a conflict between Israel and Palestine in the Middle East for over a decade, and it has led to a lot of controversy with celebrities picking a side in the conflict. Obviously, this conflict is incredibly complicated, but Chris Martin has made his support for Palestine very clear. This brought a lot of backlash, especially from more conservative groups, but the band has been very adamant with their support, even performing with Palestinian artists and refusing to play in Israel. Even if you disagree, they definitely put their money where their mouth is in this matter, and to me it's just another indication of how Coldplay genuinely cares about making the world a better place and supporting their causes. r/Coldplay. r/Coldplay is the main subreddit of Coldplay, as well as probably the largest online community surrounding the band. Many of the sources and ideas for this video have come from r/Coldplay, and I would highly suggest checking them out because unlike a lot of subreddits, the community is actually very supportive and friendly. So yeah, shout out to you guys. AlienFMRadio.com. Alien FM Radio was a promotion put out by the band prior to the release of their album Music of the Spheres, which included snippets from the album and songs across the whole band's discography to advertise the album through this website. You can still visit it to this day, and there's some pretty cool details if you ever want to check it out. Max Martin. Max Martin is Coldplay's current producer, who has worked with them on the albums Music of the Spheres and Moon Music. He's easily one of the most prolific songwriters and producers in the music industry today, working with pop stars such as Taylor Swift, Britney Spears, Katy Perry, and The Weeknd. B-sides. B-sides in music are essentially just songs that don't make the album, and are often included with the artist's singles and on the backside of the record. Coldplay's B-sides have grown a cult following over the years, and many fans, including myself, consider them to be some of their best work. Some of their most beloved B-sides include Moses, Gravity, Crest of Waves, and Animals. Alternate song versions. Coldplay has many alternate versions of their songs, as when creating the albums, songs often get rewritten dozens of times. They perform some of these versions live, but most of what we know about them can be found online. Unfortunately, likely hundreds, if not thousands of these demos are just not available to the public, making these technically an instance of lost media if they aren't released. Game of Thrones the Musical. This entry refers to the YouTube video of the same name, in which Coldplay is called in to write a musical for Game of Thrones. I've personally never watched Game of Thrones, but if you are a fan, definitely check this one out as it's pretty funny. There's a bunch of cameos from the actual cast of Game of Thrones. Liam Neeson is the narrator, and the song about the Rastafarian Targaryen gets me every time. It's honestly just super funny, you should go watch it. Songs never played live. There are a surprising amount of songs that have just never been played live. Many of their B-sides fall into this list, but also more popular songs like Fun, Aliens, and Twisted Logic. Yes, the same song they named the entire X and Y tour after have never been played live. There are also a lot of songs that have just been played once or twice, and some of my favorites, such as Yes and A Whisper, fall into this category. Come on Coldplay, just give the fans what they want already. CD booklets. Coldplay CDs and vinyl usually come with special booklets that contain lyric sheets, exclusive artwork from the band, photographs, and just a bunch of cool Easter eggs from the album. I have their first 4 albums on CD, and it's really fun to just go through the booklets looking at all the cool details and photographs. John Hopkins. John Hopkins is an ambient electronic artist and producer who has worked with Coldplay on many tracks, including Midnight and Moon Music. His atmospheric soundscapes serve Coldplay really well, and the songs that he's credited on are some of my favorites in their entire discography. I'd highly suggest checking out his solo work too, if you enjoy the songs that I've just mentioned. Hidden tracks. Coldplay is well known for their use of hidden tracks, which is essentially including another song within a track, typically done at the end of an album. In the early days of vinyl, hidden tracks would play a few minutes after the album was finished, and it would be a creative way to add in cut tracks or demos. Coldplay, however, takes us to the next level, often having multiple hidden tracks throughout even a single album. The best example of this is Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends. A majority of tracks on Viva La Vida actually contain a hidden track, with some examples being Lovers in Japan / Reign of Love, Yes / Chinese Sleep Chant, and Death and All His Friends / The Escapist. Christmas Lights. Christmas Lights is Coldplay's most famous Christmas song. The track was released in December 2010 to critical acclaim and remains a favorite among fans. Christian imagery. Coldplay, while not an explicitly Christian band, does contain a lot of religious symbolism, most of it centered around Christianity. Chris Martin was raised Protestant, and he has cited his experiences at church as having a profound impact on his passion for music. The band was also heavily influenced by U2, a Christian band who uses religious symbolism heavily. This religious symbolism is probably the most apparent on Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends, as themes of religion, judgment, and corruption, as well as references to the Catholic Church and the French Revolution, are integral to the themes of the album. However, Coldplay has also explored many other religions as well, including Hinduism and Islam, on A Head Full of Dreams and Everyday Life, respectively. The Moon on Parachutes cover. Prior to the release of Moon music, the globe on the cover of Parachutes was changed from the Earth to the Moon, as a form of advertising the new album. A similar advertising method has been done by other artists, including 21 Pilots and Olivia Rodrigo in recent years. As of today, the Parachutes cover still contains the moon, so we'll see if it ever gets turned back. Will's background vocals. This entry is pretty self-explanatory, but drummer Will Champion serves as the primary background vocalist for the band, being featured on most songs that contain background vocals. Samples. Coldplay, like many other artists, uses samples in their music. You probably already know what sampling is, but in case you don't, sampling is basically the process of using outside recordings, typically sections of songs, in your own music. While this process is most common in hip-hop and electronic music, it does make some appearances in rock music as well. Coldplay typically uses these samples to create ambient soundscapes for their tracks. Two notable examples of this include the track Talk by Sigurd Rose, which Coldplay used as a sample in the intro to the track Princess of China, and Light Through the Veins by John Hopkins, which Coldplay used in both the track Life in Technicolor and on the hidden track The Escapist. Overtura. Prior to the release of Music of the Spheres, Coldplay released a track entitled Overtura, which served as a preview of the album with clips of all of the songs. It actually has over 2 million plays on Spotify, which is pretty impressive considering it's just a trailer for the album. You can still listen to it to this day, but I don't really know why you want to because Coloratura is the only song worth listening to, let's be honest. Coldplay.com/ink. This entry refers to an interactive music video that Coldplay released for the song Ink off of the album Ghost Stories. It was actually super in-depth with thousands of possible combinations. It was a super creative way to market the song. Unfortunately, this link simply redirects you to the webpage with the lyrics of the song, and the music video can't be accessed anymore. I tried using the Wayback Machine to access the video, and while it did load, the version of Flash Player that it used couldn't be emulated, so I was just stuck on the opening scene. If anybody knows how to access this video, please let me know because it's really unfortunate that this video can't be accessed anymore, and I'd love to see it. Coldplay dislikes X and Y. Even though many fans love X and Y, including myself, it is largely disliked by the band for many reasons. After the critical success of Russia Blood to the Head, the band felt pressured into producing a commercially successful album more than ever before. Chris Martin has even stated that he would like to remake the whole album, as he is unsatisfied with the way that it came out. Chris also said he dislikes the track Speed of Sound, as it's too similar to the song Clocks, which, that's kind of valid. Guy Berryman has also stated that he dislikes the album, specifically the song Talk, although this may be due to tensions between him and Chris during the production of the album. Johnny also described the Twisted Logic tour as the lowest point in his career. Personally, I don't think X and Y is their worst album at all. It's maybe not their best, and it does suffer a little bit from overproduction, but the band has recognized this. It's still an amazing album, and you should listen to it if you haven't yet, so I don't really understand all the hate for it. Documentary/concert films. Coldplay has released a handful of documentaries and concert films, with the main one being for the Head Full of Dreams tour. This documentary, which was released alongside the album of the same name, dives into the band's history and creative process. They've also released a few concert films, with their most successful being Music of the Spheres, live from River Plate. The Wedding Album. The Wedding Album is an unreleased album that Coldplay was working on following Viva La Vida and prior to Milo Lodo. It was rumored to be a more stripped-back, acoustic, and experimental album than their early work, but it was ultimately scrapped due to creative differences. The album also contained early versions of many of the songs in Milo Lodo, as well as the song Christmas Lights, which they released later in 2010, an early version of Arabesque, Life in Technicolor 2, which was released with the Prospects March EP, and the scrapped track Luna, which was a collaboration with Australian singer Kylie Minogue. TV cameos. Coldplay has had many cameos in movies and TV. Chris Martin has had multiple cameos, including making appearances in Shaun of the Dead, The Simpsons, and Modern Family. Viva La Vida demos. The studio sessions of Viva La Vida produced many more songs than just the 10 tracks featured on the album. Many of the songs were repurposed for the Prospects March EP, but some would be released on later albums. Demos of Arabesque, People of the Pride, Aliens, and Ghost Story also exist from this period, some of which took over a decade to release. Alternate band names. Pectorals was the original name for Coldplay when they were still in college. The band cycled through many different names before deciding on Coldplay, including the Starfish, Pectorals, and the Big Fat Noises. The band also used the name Los Unidades to release the EP for the nonprofit concert Global Citizen. Microtonality. Coldplay has used microtonality in certain tracks, especially on A Rush of Blood to the Head. Now this microtonality isn't exactly intentional, but during the production of Rush of Blood to the Head, the piano that Chris used was slightly out of tune, leading to the tuning being 445 Hz instead of the normal 440 Hz. Other than the song Clocks, every song on the album that has a piano in it features this out-of-tune piano, leading to its unique sound. Spies was written as a James Bond song. The song Spies, off of the album Parachutes, was written as an homage to the James Bond series, as Chris is a very big fan of the films, as well as the soundtrack. While the band was never commissioned to make the song for a Bond film, the influence is pretty clear. Concept albums. A concept album simply refers to albums that are created with a specific purpose to tell an overall story or to convey a specific theme. Some of the most famous concept albums include Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon and King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. However, Coldplay has released many concept albums as well. According to the Wikipedia list of concept albums, Malazai Loto and Music of the Spheres are both considered concept albums, as they have very heavy space themes, and every song on Music of the Spheres represents a different planet. However, in my personal opinion, Viva La Vida and Moon Music could also very easily be considered concept albums as well. Music of the Spheres origins. The concept of Music of the Spheres dates all the way back to ancient Greece. When Pythagoras discovered the pitch and wavelength of sound, he theorized that each planet in the solar system had a specific resonant pitch that could be interpreted as a sound. This idea was further developed by Kepler in the 16th century, who described and charted the sound intervals that the planets made. Composers such as Gustav Holst were inspired by this idea, which led to the famous The Planet Symphony. Even to this day, scientists agree that each planet has a resonant pitch, and you can actually find videos from NASA documenting these tones. Coldplay was inspired by this idea and created each song on the album based on a fictional planet created specifically for the record. Also Sprach Zarathustra. Refers to the 1896 composition by German composer Richard Strauss. Inspired by Friedrich Nietzsche's book of the same name, the piece was used in the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's remembered the most. The introduction to the song Square One is actually a sample of this piece, as A Space Odyssey was a large inspiration to Chris when making the album. Mince Spies. Mince Spies was a special Christmas recording the band released in 2000 to commemorate the release of Parachutes. The EP contained a cover of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, as well as a remix of Yellow by the trip-hop band Alpha. Chris wrote a message completely naked. Yep, pretty self-explanatory, not much to say here. Johnny Cash, Till Kingdom Come. Chris Martin's original intention for the song Till Kingdom Come on X and Y was to feature Johnny Cash, as the song was written as an homage to him. However, unfortunately, Cash passed away before the song could be completed. The 40-Year-Old Virgin. This refers to a joke in the 40-Year-Old Virgin made by Paul Rudd's character about Coldplay. Alttheism. Alttheism is a term that Chris has used to describe his religious beliefs. As stated earlier, Chris grew up in a very Christian household, and this definitely shaped his beliefs. But as he's gotten older, he has stated that he is more skeptical of organized religion. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but based on what he said, basically he believes in the idea and the existence of God, but he just doesn't believe in a particular religion and believes that all of them are valid. He once said that he is the only person in the world who worships Zeus, which I think is pretty funny. Gravity. Gravity is a B-side from the X and Y recording sessions, released alongside the single Talk in 2005. Coldplay originally performed the song in 2002, but after the British rock band Embrace asked for the rights to record it and Coldplay agreed, they released their own version in 2004. Many fans, including myself, consider this song to be one of the best Coldplay B-sides, and it remains a cult classic to this day. Liberty Leading the People. Liberty Leading the People is a painting by French artist Eugene Delacroix that prevents the Revolution of 1830. Coldplay chose this painting to be the album cover for Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends, as it symbolizes the themes of revolution, power, and fame present on the album, as well as the multiple connections to the French Revolution. Frank Ocean's Strawberry Swing. This entry refers to a cover that hip-hop artist Frank Ocean did of the song Strawberry Swing, leading to many people associating the song with him. If you're into Frank Ocean though, definitely check it out, this is a pretty cool take on the song. Influences. Coldplay has been influenced by a slew of different bands and musicians through their career. Some of the more obvious influences include U2, Radiohead, and Oasis. However, many other influences include Jeff Buckley, Aha, Travis, My Bloody Valentine, Muse, Brian Eno, Arcade Fire, David Bowie, The Beatles, Beyonce, Sigur Rós, Bob Marley, Bob Dylan, Björk, Kraftwerk, Depeche Mode, Pink Floyd, and many more. Basically, just like every other band, Coldplay is a combination of all of their influences, and it's unfair to compare them to just one band. Talking to you, Radiohead. So with that being said, if you made it to the end of this video and you're still watching, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm just starting out this channel, and if you want to see more content like it, please feel free to like and subscribe. It really would help me out. I also do have a Spotify account, so if you like Coldplay or alternative rock at all, please check it out, as I'm pretty sure you'll like it. I have a lot of new releases coming out, and I feel really good about it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please feel free to like and subscribe, and above everything else, thank you for watching.